Hello, everyone. Welcome to another incredible episode of Visibility Era. Today, I'm here with Lydia Bagarosa, and behind the scenes, we have Shari Alyse, who will be coming on in just a moment. But we want to just go over a couple of housekeeping things here inside the community, inside the group here today. If you're watching this live, make sure that you let us know. Make sure that you ask questions. Make sure that you comment. Make sure that you go connect with Shari after this episode as well. And a couple of things just going on in the community. We have two things going on. We have our Get Booked podcast bootcamp happening next week, July 26th and 27th, right, Lydia? Yeah. Okay. And you're muted, Lydia. So just let me. Awesome. So we have the Get Booked podcast bootcamp happening next week. And this is all about getting on not your friends' shows anymore. This is about getting on big shows. And how do we do that? How do we approach the media? What do we say? Who do we contact? How do we leverage those podcasts? And then we are also in open enrollment right now for Visibility on Purpose. And we're doing a fun $400 off flash sale. So anyone who's been thinking about joining us, definitely send us a message, learn more about what we're up to.
Yay. Yeah, we've been filling up very fast. So if you are interested, join us. We only have limited spots available. This is a very intimate container. So shoot us a DM. We love to chat. Also, yes, $400 off until Monday only. So yay. Thank you. Thank you for all of the all of the announcements. Hey.
I feel like I'm
guys, it's Friday. I feel like it's Sunday all week. I've been on a different schedule. Anyway, here we are.
Here we are. It's like when you go to school and the announcements play over the loudspeaker. Obviously, we need more practice at our loudspeaker announcement. Anyway, we're about to bring on our guest, Miss Shari Alyse. Shari is a TV host. She's a media personality. She is a 2-time TEDx speaker. She's also a best-selling author. I think she has 2 books also, so I'm sure we'll go into that as well. And what I love about Shari, we'll go a little bit into the backstory, but she has been able to make herself a regular guest on Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS as America's joy magnet. So she's literally bringing the joy and the good mission and message to the world. And we need more of Shari in our life. So we're going to talk to her today all about TV, media, and a little bit of her journey. So welcome, Shari, to the show.
Hi. Yay. So excited. It's like a child. Yay. So excited to be here. 2 powerhouses in the industry. And I'm just honored that you asked me.
So grateful. So grateful. So I wanted to give everyone a little bit of context of how you and I know each other, because it's probably been 2 or 3 years that we've been in each other's worlds, in each other's spheres. And you and I both were on the Be on TV bootcamp. Was that the first connection piece for us, right?
It was. Yeah, it was.
I didn't know
I remember seeing you during that time, and we were with Jen Gottlieb and Chris Winfield learning all about media and podcasts and just putting ourselves out there. And I remember the whole entire time seeing you, you were just such a positive light, and you were actually putting into practice what we were learning. And that's really why I wanted to have you on the show here today, because you are a walking, talking, example of your work. So how about we just start with a little intro from Shari?
Sure. So, well, first I'll say, yes, that is when we met, of course. And it was during the pandemic. So there was a lot of time, I'll just say, to devote to what we were learning. There wasn't a lot that I was doing. And so on a personal level, I was like, if I'm going to invest myself financially and my time and all, I'm going all in. And so I just started implementing immediately as we were learning and going along the way, and booked something just from following, a format. So that's why but it takes a lot of time, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and you all know, and consistency, which you guys talk about a lot. But anyway, I'm Shari, as you said. I'm a speaker. I am a host. I got a new show coming out soon, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. And I also do media consulting as well, but specifically focused on television because that's how I learned. And so I'm just teaching what I've learned, and to help people in your community, people in general, heart-based, to land television segments, to gain visibility, credibility, and all that good stuff.
Why
Thank you so much, Shari?
Huh?
Why was it TV for you right away? What pulled you in that lens?
Yeah, because I came out of my mom with a film crew. I've always loved. I have always I've always loved television. And what I mean by that is from a young age, just with my own personal journey and having experienced childhood trauma, there was a lot of stuff that happened, and I was drawn to entertainment, divorce in a family. And I had this feeling, okay, let me make sense here. There was a lot of sadness in my family. And so me being able to take people away from their sadness and entertain them, I watched the power of being able to help people shift their emotions. And so I started in the entertainment field as an actress because that's what I wanted to do for people. I wanted to move people. And over the years, through my own personal healing journey, I realized one day that I didn't want to play a character anymore. I wanted to be myself. But my love of entertainment and my love of television is still there. And so for me, I had spent so many years on social media, and I still am, but I realized that I could only go so far. And so during the pandemic, I was like, how can I come in like a different angle to be able to get more spotlight around my messaging? And so the TV thing popped up, and I was already knowing that I wanted a talk show and the whole nine. So I was like, well, let's go this way. Let's build our brand through mainstream media. And that's a long way of saying why I chose television.
I love that. And Shari, I want to mention something that you just shared when you were introing, which was that it takes consistency, and it's a long-term strategy. We keep talking about this idea of like, in the industry, there's so many people that are into this quick fix idea, or like, oh, we're just going to buy this and then we're going to skyrocket our audience. We're going to go viral. And there's so much pressure on social media of like, let's go viral, or so much pressure of like, we need to quantum leap, we need to whatever, like make things happen overnight. And what we've been really leaning into and trying to share with our community is this type of stuff. Like, this is the long-term game. It's like believing in ourselves, believing in our brand, and deciding that this is going to be a long-term strategy to grow. So I absolutely love that. And before we got on, Bridget was just telling me like all of the cool places that you've been on. And to me, it's so inspiring because it's not like, you reach out to one person and then you get like a million interviews. It's like, it really takes time to do that. So I would love to hear about your process. And also what really interests me is the idea of talking about like mindset and joy on TV, because as we know, it can be kind of like not so bubbly and fun on there. So I would love to hear about all of that.
Yeah. So you touched on so many things. So I'm like, I'll start with the consistency aspect and the long term. I tell every client that I have, like, media is a long game. And like I said, during the pandemic, I had so much time. We all had a lot of time on our hands. And so I consistently was with building relationships and sending out pitches. Like, people I remember in the community, because we would post our wins, and I'm like, I got on this team, and people were like, oh my God. I'm like, do you have any idea how many pitches I sent out to get that first one? And it is so true about, because I used to, like, I would put something out before and I would think, oh, this is going to be it, and I'm going to go viral and the whole nine, like how everybody does. And people are seeing so much of my growth now in the last few years, and now creating my own studio show. I'm still bubbling about that, but I'm like, it did not happen overnight. Like, I posted my first video back in like 2007, and I've been posting consistently. I have thousands of videos, like content. So it's not something that is overnight. And yes, we all want it, and I wanted it, but media and pitching is a long game. And that's why you have to be so connected to your messaging and your purpose, which mine is joy. And it was easy for me to put that out there because I knew, especially like honestly, during 2020 and 2021, during that time, it was like not the perfect storm, but the perfect time, because people were needing something good. Because years before that, joy in television, in mainstream media, had been like, okay, this girl needs to go somewhere else, because we only talk about the hard stuff, but during that time, it was the perfect time. And I decided to not hold back on my messaging. And one of the biggest things in television, just like it is in podcasts, just like it is in magazines, is providing value. It was never about me. Never about me. And I think they felt that, the journalists, the producers, like I was always the extra. In any interview you see, I'm rarely mention myself, except in those perfect moments when you could say like what you do or in my book, but it's never about me. So
thank you for saying that, because I think we have to remember how the media works also, and they're looking at their best interest. They want to put out the best show for their audience. Yeah. They want to get the best ratings. They want to have people saying, wow, this is amazing. And I think it's important for us to think about that when we are pitching ourselves, that of course we have so much value to offer. Of course we do. And how can we harness our genius and package our genius in a way that these contacts, whether it's a producer or an editor or a podcast host, is like, that's a cool topic. I want to feature that person. So when did that click for you?
Well, it's interesting. Well, I would say right away, the idea of understanding the value and giving them something that was less about me, but also realizing that it is visual, it is television. And so we have to also show up as a good guest visually. And that doesn't mean about being beautiful or being whatever, but there are, strategies to being on television. And so learning that, and that I will give myself credit for after years of, being an actress and understanding the camera and knowing how to communicate. So for me, when I pitched to the journalist, it was including, and to the producers, it was including them seeing me on camera, because that was important for them, because you have to hold the viewer's attention. So you're not just another talking, boring head. I don't even know if I answered your question, because I kind of blacked out during it.
That is a really good point. I just remember, and this is nothing wrong with this, we all need to practice, but we talk about this a lot. Like, practice is so important when it comes to interviews, whether you're on a podcast, whether you're on TV. But I have seen some things where they get their first interview, they don't practice, they don't realize. I think it's just the awareness of it. And then they go on and they sound like a robot. And so remembering that we're also human, and Bridget and I are big on this, but like human connection, even when there's a camera in front of you, just allowing yourself to like be human, because we're watching you. We want to learn about you. And we don't want to hear it from a robot. That's why we're watching TV. So I love that. I really think that's so important. And we talk about that a lot inside Visibility on Purpose. It's like, what are the little tricks and things that you can do to help yourself be more natural, so you can also get your message and your value across? Because if you're distracting somebody by the ums and like freezing up, you're not going to be able to articulate your message. And that's what this is all about. So I really, truly love that.
Go
ahead.
No, I was just going to go off of that and just say that no matter how much experience in front of the camera I might have come in with, my first time I went on, there was still so many imperfections. But my consistent work has been in the beginning, specifically, to really watch back every interview that I did and see where can I improve. And I remember the first time, and I just want to share this because it was so I remember the first time I went on, first of all, I had nobody telling me what would happen, like what would happen when I log in, where do I go? Like, there was all these unknowns. But I remember trying to be at first so like news, like this is the news and I'm going to, talk like that. And to now watch my own personal journey on TV to being so much more of myself and more comfortable and more human.
Yeah, I think about it like I feel like when we first started our businesses, I think a lot of people can like feel the same way, or like you end up looking just like the classic realtor, like you have your blazer on and you go in and you're you know what I mean? And you're like, okay, and it's not you. And then you realize, oh wait, this isn't me. And people are coming to see me. And like, I need to look more like myself. Completely. So there's so many things. I totally hear you there. I want to touch back on the value piece, because what we see a lot is people want to get on TV, our students want to get on TV, and they think they need to lead with the credentials, and that's what's going to get them booked. And so they try to lead with like, well, I have this certification and I've been featured here, blah, blah, blah. But then they totally leave out the message. And especially, I mean, being a publicist also for many years, and you having this knowledge, just, I know coming in with value trumps following and credentials every single time, because that's what they're looking to do. The transaction is value for the audience. So I would love to hear your thoughts on how you led with value and how you really got those big TV placements, because TV, even local, like that is a big accomplishment. TV shiny.
It is. That's why I love it. And I will own that. It's taken me a long time to own it, but I'm like, I love television. This yes. camera has always been like a friend to me. And that's another tip for, on camera presence. But value. So first of all, they're never even going to open up your pitch if your subject line is not immediately offering them value, if it's not immediately telling them how their viewers are going to benefit, what it's going to teach them. So that's number one, like before you even open that email and get into the pitch itself. But you have to pull them in right from the beginning and being able to present to them, even though everybody knows like what the challenges in the world are, but without, putting it in their face, and then how you're going to be different, not who you are, like the stuff you do, but what story are you going to tell and how are you going to help their viewers? And then once they've bought into that, it's then your credentials, then the things that you do. So why are you the expert that they're going to choose? Why am I the person that I'm going to come in and, talk about joy or talk about self-love or compassion? What is that? And it's not, especially in the smaller local stations, you don't need to have like all these degrees, and you don't even need, I've booked many clients without a book that don't have a book. And yes, it is like the lowest hanging fruit to be able to get in. And it's always like, it is easier, I think, to get in with a book, but you can do it without. It's really about your messaging and the value that you are going to give their viewers. What's going to make that viewer sit there during that segment and not leave their television so their viewership goes up. And ultimately, that's what's important to them.
Right, totally. I want to touch on the idea of like all of this compounding over time, especially in your own journey, right? You said that you have thousands of pieces of content on the internet. You've been doing videos since 2007. You started pitching yourself probably around 2020, 2021, that time frame, or maybe earlier?
No, never. Not until after we took the course together. That was it. That was the first time I pitched.
Inspiring. She's like, I'm off.
Truly.
Yeah. So, well, it was like I needed to be taught a strategy on how to do it. And I needed to understand that every day you and I can get on television. That was the biggest thing. Like I looked at people on TV and thinking that you had to be a certain person to get on there. And I was like, to come to find out that mindset that they need our content. They need us to be able to, have a show. Without us, they got nothing.
Absolutely. So. I love seeing it as like a synergistic relationship. We both help each other out. And I think that's a great way to look at the mindset of it as well. It's like you have something of value to offer. They want what you have to offer. You meet in the middle. It's just like sales. Want, need, and desire. Solutions that want, need, and desire come together. And like for you, when did this all really start to compound? Because I love that we started this talk today talking about all the little things that you've been doing behind the scenes for years. And now people are seeing the success. You have the shiny logos. You've been featured in the places that most people only dream of being featured. When did things really start to compound and you begin to get more opportunities because of people seeing what you were doing?
I'll be honest, it started shifting right away as soon as that first interview went up on TV. Like literally, and I always joke with people and I tell my clients, I'm like, my messaging from pre-television, like mainstream TV, was the exact same message. But as soon as I got on that TV with the logo, people started looking at me differently and taking me more seriously in the work that I was doing. And here I am back here going, I'm the same person that just turned on a Facebook Live and said the same message. But people started looking at, because it does carry that credibility with it. So, but it wasn't just like you get on TV and then again, that same thing, you go viral or everybody now wants you. Like it was, what did I do afterwards with that first TV interview? How did I then leverage that to then get another one? Well, I'll tell you, I took that first interview and I put that in my second pitch to another station so they could actually see, oh, somebody else has already invested in her. Somebody else has already trusted her and here she is. And so it's just been little by little. And for me, everybody has their own reason for getting on television. Mine was, of course, to spread the joy message, but for a bigger purpose is that I wanted to grow my network with people in the television industry, with executives, because I want to have my own talk show. So that was so it wasn't about getting more speaking gigs, which was cool. It wasn't about, well, selling books I sell books every time I go on TV. And it doesn't matter that this is from 2019. Every time I go on television, there are books sold. So that was fun. But for me, it was gaining all of this footage. So to then be like, hey, TV execs, here I am. So but it's been all the work behind the scenes. I don't want anyone to think again that you go on, like a station here in LA or wherever, and then you're suddenly discovered and everybody wants to buy your book and book you on stages. No, it's like, what do you do with that after? It's consistent work again.
Gosh, I love this. And you talking about putting the TV segment in your pitch to then leverage, music to my ears as a publicist. I was like, yes, more of that. But this is actually, I would love to shift into mindset, because I think it's, number one, it's really hard to talk about yourself and to even share those things. It's something a lot of people don't realize. And a lot of our students don't realize. It's like, oh, wait, I got on this. I can talk about this now. I can use this now in my, I don't know, lives, in my pitches, in my whatever. And so talking about leveraging, and then also talking about the mindset to keep going, because you mentioned a few times that it is consistency. And I know there are a lot of people out there, and I've heard this from my clients, from my students, from our students, that get to a point where they're just like, it's not working. And it's like, I get it, because it's hard. It's really vulnerable to put yourself out there. And when you don't receive responses right away, it kind of feels like, oh, am I not doing this right? Am I not worthy enough? Am I not good enough? And so those things come in. Yeah. So I would love to hear about your thoughts on mindset and mindset throughout this journey.
Yeah, such a good question, because it really is everything. I mean, because without that healthy mindset, you're not going to continue with it. And for me, it was never, and I did learn this from being an actress and auditioning and having to get a lot of no's, is that it was never about me. Like, I never took that personally. So as I was sending these pitches, I put myself into that same mindset. And I do that with my clients. And I say, they may never respond because they never opened up the email. They may never respond because they might have someone that's already doing something on that segment that month. They might never respond because maybe it's just not what they're currently looking for, or there's more breaking news. I just had someone in LA here, a producer, that said, I love this. We've just had breaking news happening right now, so I can't get to this. But that was after the third follow-up. Yeah. And so the mindset is just understanding that, I would say, it's not about you, that if you truly believe in what it is that you're offering and the value and the messaging, you keep going. And my recent client just said to me, she was like, nobody's responding. And I said, have you followed up? And she's like, no, not yet. And so she went and followed up, and she booked 3 out of the 15 pitches that she had sent on that second follow-up. And so that's just
a good turnover.
Yeah. And it's because there's so many reasons why somebody just might not, or maybe your subject line didn't work. And so guess what? The next month you get to go and change your subject line, mix up the pitch, see if next month it'll work. But it's about that consistency, and it's about knowing that you have a powerful message, something that needs to be heard, and there's someone out there that will resonate with it.
Yes. And I think what you mentioned with all of this, like shifting, like, okay, it might just be the subject line, let's shift it. Or it might just be that it's not a good time for right now. I always tell my clients, even the ones that I have one-on-one, and even in Visibility on Purpose, when we're talking all the time, it's like, it might be a no, just for right now. We have had so many students where they didn't get a response, and then out of nowhere, 3 months later, they're like, I got a response from them. Oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, that's normal. That happens. There's so many editors and producers that tell me that they actually have like their own filing system where they put things that they want to keep on file in folders. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if it's Google Drive or what. I like Google Drive, but they do that. So it's just reminding us that it's never really about us. And sometimes we just need to shift something. And I love that you mentioned the follow-up, because we get most responses from the follow-up. People are busy. And so when we just give a little nudge of like, hey, did you have a chance to take a look at this? They want that nudge. Almost everyone, very few I've heard say like they don't like a follow-up. I'm talking like, I want to say like the 5, maybe 2% of people in the industry, but most really, really appreciate the follow-up because it reminds them about it. They may be working on a story that week or working on a segment that week and it's busy. And so remembering to do the follow-up is absolutely crucial if you want to. No,
I was going to say the majority of my book segments have been on follow-ups. It's been rare that it was on the first one. And my first one that I ever booked was on the follow-up, and they said, thank you so much for following up. I had put this aside and they just got busy. And as you said, months later, so Good Day Philadelphia, I had pitched them like 4 times with no response. So that means like over 4 months, and about 2 months. So I guess 6 months in, they followed up with me about a different story that I had never even pitched them because they were holding my file as an expert in a certain area. And so then they came back to me. So that's why that consistency and is so important.
I think there's a lot of...
Oh, go ahead, Bridget.
I think there's a lot of mindset components to this, because I had a conversation with someone last night. We were talking about rejection. And when we have businesses, we're also going to have conversations where it's not a good fit or it's not the right time. And someone says no, or in life. And, you know, I come from a sales background where I was cold calling 100 business owners a day at Yelp, selling them advertising space.
My chest tightens up.
So we learned a lot in that experience, but the blessing of that was I'm not scared to move forward. And I think that for anyone who's, you know, going to be taking this journey of PR and getting themselves on TV and getting themselves on podcasts and magazine, it's just something we have to remember, you know, as we move forward, because there are going to be moments where we don't hear back, and that's okay. And I love what you said, Shari. It's not really about you.
Yeah. I would love to ask you, Shari, about in person versus virtual and what that looks like. Because you said you're in LA.
Yes.
Yeah. So Good Morning Philadelphia, and like pitching these local stations. I think a lot of people think that like local stations in other areas are not for them. Like they can't pitch something in another state because it's far from where they live. And so I would love to get your perspective on these morning shows, what it looks like to pitch them outside of your state, and then also in person versus virtual. If you know they're okay with virtual, or how would you ask them, hey, is it okay if we do virtual instead of in person if you can't be there?
Yeah, so good. So again, a big blessing was during the pandemic because nobody could go anywhere. And so from what I understand, because like I said, I didn't do TV before, but Zoom interviews, unless you were like somebody in like the satellite or whatever, however they did it, wasn't what they were doing. And so they opened up virtually around the US. So now shows were able to have experts from around the world. So that door opened. And so all of my interviews at first were all virtual. And then it was only when they started allowing people back in the studios, then I was able to go into studio. But I'm also in LA, which is the number 2 market out of the top 10. So it is one of the hardest. So I have had a few interviews here only 2 times in person. Before that was virtual, but not a lot. So even for myself, I'll just say it's challenging to get into the bigger markets. But if you are in a smaller city, smaller market, in person, they love right now, but they're still doing virtual. There's only been some of the cities that I was a regular guest on that they have now moved away from doing virtual, and they only want local people in their studios, which was disappointing. But at the same time, there's so many people who still remain open. So really, it's the same process. If it's local for me in my pitch, I will say I'm available for in studio. If it's not local, all it says is that I'm available for virtual. segment. So I just lay that out in the pitch at the end. So, but my strategy doesn't really change whether it's local or not. And I have opened myself up to so many opportunities because we get to do it virtually. So yeah, I love in studio though. There's nothing like the live energy of that.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
So fun too. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'll fly out and go in person.
I actually did that for DC. I did that for DC and made a trip out of it because they had offered me, which was really cool. I was a regular guest for over a year, and the producer had moved from one station to another, which, by the way, another huge thing, relationships, building relationships, staying friendly, checking in, even when you're not pitching, because they're humans. And I think I saw you do that, a video on that, Bridget, like you were talking about, talk to them on the other side. They're humans. So important. But so I built a relationship with him anyway. He moved to a new station in DC, and I was offered, they do co-hosting. So they do like a lunch hours thing, and I was offered a co-hosting. Anyway, long story short, I flew all the way out there. They had to cancel it for breaking news, but I got to go into the studio anyway the next day. So I would travel for really good opportunities personally.
Absolutely. And why wouldn't you? So fun. So fun. Oh gosh, this is so good. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bridget, do you have any remaining questions? I think you answered so much around TV, and like, I think you also really opened a lot of people's eyes, opened our eyes to the possibility of TV, because sometimes TV, especially because it can be in person. And so it seems scarier and like it's not attainable and it's not in our reach. So we so appreciate you for just also being human and sharing your story about how you can do this. And you can bring your message, and your message is meant to be shared. And I love that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And that's what I want everyone to know. And just like you said, that we all get to do what we want. And I know that sounds like idealistic, but we do. If you have a powerful message and you believe in yourself and you decide to take inspired action and you're consistent with it and you stay aligned with it, you will book what it is that you want, the podcast, the TV, the magazines, all of it. So
living
through
consistency works. Thank you.
I have one more thing I want you to share, Shari. I want you to plug your new talk show, because I've seen you with the Joy Spot. I've seen you interviewing people over these last couple of years. I know that this did not happen overnight, and I'm just really excited for you. So tell us about the talk show before we head off.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've hosted so many online shows over the years, doing it myself on Facebook Live, did it on MySpace, like YouTube. I've done MySpace. All the things. I know. Well, that was my first opportunity. I was like, I get an audience. I could share inspirational messages here and bulletin boards. Like, there were so many cool things you could do. So but my point of that is that, so there's always been some kind of show that I'm hosting. And because of my confidence built in getting on the mainstream television, because of the connections that I have built, because of the visibility and credibility that I've gained, producer noticed me on LinkedIn, reached out to me. We started working together. Anyway, I will be hosting a brand new show called Good Morning Joy. It's going to come out in the fall. It's in studio here in LA. It will be streamed on YouTube, but it will be from a studio live. And it's very exciting. I'll be interviewing celebrities. I'll be doing on the street interviews here in LA. I'll be sharing the good news stories of the world. And so it's like the next level. And then the next level will be after, when I get the live audience in there. We're working towards that.
This is amazing. I'm so excited for you. Definitely keep us in the loop. We'll be cheering you on, because this is, I just really have seen this entire journey for you. And it's just so beautiful to see all the seeds that you planted over these many, many years. Like, woo!
So, Shari,
I know, I'm getting emotional. I'm like, okay. Yeah, it's very exciting. And I put so much work into this pitching. This is such a huge part of it. So getting those pieces to then lead to this next thing. So thank you.
So beautiful. So where can everybody find you? Because I'm sure our audience is going to be all over you.
No, stop. No.
Stop. Get out of here. Right,
no
fine.
pictures. My fiance, I'm such a Leo. My birthday's next week. And my fiance is
Happy
like,
birthday,
oh, you're
my Leo people.
yeah. So, and he's totally opposite. I'm always like, no selfies. Okay. So, they can, my website, ShariAlyse.com, but I'm really engaged on social media at Shari Alyse. On TikTok, I'm at The Joy Magnet, but I would love for people to subscribe to me on YouTube because that they'll be able to see the behind the scenes of my show being created. And so at YouTube, it's at Shari Alyse.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll add all those links to the description of this video. Thank you so much for being here today. This was such a great conversation. So grateful to know you. Lydia, this was such a blast as always. And we'll be back next week with more. Thanks, Shari.
Thank you.